I'm excited about today. And the reason I'm excited about today is because we're gathered to just address a very sobering domestic violence, which is on a rise. There's been such an increase in the numbers, especially in the city of Newark, and we'll have more information about that later. It breaks families, it undermines the foundation of communities, and sends a tragic message about the state of our society. Where are we as a society today where domestic violence is so prevalent? When violence occurs within the home, it not only devastates the lives of those involved, but it also ripples out, affecting children, weakening support systems, and creating cycles of trauma that touch us all. Our families are meant to be a place of love, safety, yet too often they become battlegrounds. Community systems, schools, healthcare, law enforcement are left to pick up the pieces, stretched to their limits. And what does it say about us as a society when violence is such intimate spaces in such a prevalent way? It says we need to do better. We need to protect the vulnerable, and we need to stand together to stop the silence that allows abuse to thrive. As Maya Angelou so powerfully said, each time a woman stands for herself without knowing it possibly, without claiming it, she stands up for all women. Let us work towards healing, towards breaking these cycles, and towards creating homes and communities where safety and respect are a reality for everyone. After serving for 1 year here as the director at Shani Baraka Women's Resource Center, I can truly say that we've made significant progress in the fight against domestic violence. Our focus on unity and collaboration has been key. And there are 4 areas that we've really made an impact. Our weekly meetings, through sometimes challenging atmospheres, have bettered our communication, and we understand one another. And I encourage you in your workforce, you need to have an understanding, and you need to be cohesive, and you need to work together before you can help someone else. And that is very important, and that has been established here at Shani. We've also sharpened the mission of the center and worked through the complexities that have made us stronger. By building partnerships and bringing on board trusted allies, we've not only helped others, but they've helped us. In organizing this conference, many of you offer your time and resources, making it truly our conference, meaning all of us together. The bond we formed, both within our city and with external partners, give our community the hope it deserves and the services it desperately needs. The toughest moments are when we see attempts to impress others or distort the truth to sabotage the efforts of the center. But as the saying goes, you can break a limb, but you can't break a tree. At Shani, we simply focus on doing what's right, and that integrity takes care of all of us. And it's you, the community, who come to the Shani Baraka Women's Resource Center to get our paperwork notarized, to get the photocopies that we need to be able to get the benefits that we're trying to apply for, getting that resume help so that you can find another job, whether it's finding a better job in securing employment for a lot, or it's upward mobility in terms of receiving trainings, seminars, educational sessions to make you better. It's you who walk in, often in crisis, and you're experiencing maybe abuse, and are placed in an intake and service process that brings hope and the opportunity for a better life. It's you, those of you who have been on the streets, just looking for something to eat, who find relief from hunger with our refrigerator that's stocked with food in the front. It's you who has that hunger relief, and not only the hunger relief for sustenance, you can come in and you can get clothing from our Shani Baraka clothing closet. and you can gain an understanding about housing initiatives that are available, and that you can get the assistance in completing applications and being able to have someone that you can talk to and have access to the most challenging times of your life. It's you who gives us the privilege and in our efforts to try to make lives better. I see the tears of our staff sometimes when they hear your stories and have to step away for a moment because the weight of those stories can be overwhelming. It's heartbreaking to see how life can be so challenging. But here at Shani, we continue to hold our heads high, striving towards the mark of establishing equity and dignity for all people. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be a part of this journey alongside of you. So let us continue to build upwardly. And I want to thank you for being here, and let's let the programming begin. Let's give Shani a hand clap. All of my staff, everyone who has helped out today. I want to now turn it over to someone who's going to make a presentation, a very unique individual. Her name is Jacqueline Limehouse. She is the CEO of My Sister's Lighthouse. A holistic approach to domestic violence is her topic for today. I'm going to let her talk more about her organization, and I want you to take notes so that you know that this is a resource for domestic violence that is right here in the city of Newark. She has a great story to tell, and she's going to leave us with hope and promise. I want to, without any further ado, turn it over to Ms. Limehouse. There you go, my sister.
Great morning, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Great morning, everyone. Like James Brown said, I feel good. I suffered in silence much too long. I kept my mouth closed when I knew it was wrong. Over and over, I fell for his charm because he said he wouldn't do me any more harm. Night after night, battling till dawn. My children are listening to everything going on. Too young to speak. Just remember, every closed eye ain't asleep. Living in violence they cannot control. Sooner or later, they're going to explode because they're trying to keep the secrets in the household. They only acting out what you let them see. This is the dangers that we see today. Domestic violence transcends physical harm. It deeply affects the psychological, social, legal, and financial well-being of survivors. Holistic domestic violence services aim to address this multifaceted reality by providing comprehensive support. That's what we do at My Sister's Lighthouse. This support is essential for the effective rehabilitation of women and their children who have experienced domestic violence. When it comes to holistic mental health services, many different modules can be helpful for survivors. Our trauma-informed care can be with support groups, with your peers, mediation, journaling. Learning to play chess is what I learned. I liked it because the game taught me how to think ahead and to strategize just in case I needed it for later. In my office, there's such a chess set for all the women who's willing to learn, because I think it's important that you learn how to think before you act. We have classes in self-defense that help build your confidence, not having to live in fear when you're living by yourself. Mindful workshops is a good possibility, which is essential and beneficial. You know what mindful is a practice that involves being aware of your present moment without your own judgment against yourself, because we didn't choose this for ourselves. Domestic abuse is a pervasive and dangerous issue that affects millions of people around the world, and healing domestic violence can take a significant amount of time. Not only does the intimate partner violence cause physical harm, but it can also be lasting effects on your mental and emotional being. Survivors of emotional abuse likely to have been gaslighted. Someone made you to believe that this wasn't real. What they endured was true. There must be an anchor themselves back into reality. And it's hard when you have to try to anchor someone back into reality. Although you were traumatized by your abuser, there may have been traumas that were brought to the surface due to the abusive relationship. You could have been wounded, your inner child, that also needs to be soothed by your adult self when you're feeling particularly emotional. This experience is likely to compound the unmet needs in childhood, so they surface in adulthood. Taking a holistic approach to healing domestic violence allows you to get into the root and the mental, physical, and spiritual impacts of this experience. Freedom from effects of domestic violence is possible. For a survivor, domestic violence is a crucial, and you must prioritize your healing and for your well-being. Consider seeking out a customized support specifically for survivors of domestic violence. By working with a trained professional, you can receive personalized support as you navigate through the healing process. At My Sister's Lighthouse, we specialize in supporting survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse through the holistic recovery techniques. With our holistic approach to the trauma and healing, we can get to the root of your mental and physical issues. As a survivor of domestic violence myself, I believe that everyone who comes through our doors deserves a treatment approach that takes into consideration their entire being. Healing from domestic violence is a journey that requires patience, self-care, and support. By incorporating holistic practices into your healing journey, you can promote overall well-being and empower yourself to move forward in a positive way. Remember, healing is possible, and you deserve to live a happy, healthy, free of abuse. So if you believe that we can help you, and all of these people in this room can help you, you must break the silence. If you're afraid of your partner, that's a big red flag. You may be scared to say what you think, bring up certain topics, or to say no to sex. No matter the reason, fear has no place in a healthy relationship. Let's say that again. Fear has no place in a healthy relationship. If you feel like you're being abused, there's a good chance you might be. And it's worth getting help. Getting the information that will help you is the key. I'm going to say this again. Education is the key. It helps us. Being aware is really important. Being knowledgeable is really important. You know, trying to get someone back into the community after they've been wounded and hurt, it's hard. I can say last night, someone called me last night, a late night, and the young lady is here tonight. She was sleeping, waiting for the library to close after being in a domestic violence. Everyone turning her way. And let me just say, sometimes someone has to be, they're only waiting for someone to answer the phone, for that one person to say something that will change the whole outlook on everything. And giving someone hope is so important. It was the one thing that changed my life, hope. So I believe if we can work together and give people hope, it's like a big thing, because you can challenge what they need inside. Everyone knows what they need for themselves. All we do is channel them. Okay. So, as I do my close, I think everyone remembers this one. If you're around about my age, you heard this. And I can remember singing this song. Early in the morning, I put breakfast on the table and make sure that your coffee has its sugar and cream. Your eggs are over easy, your toast done lightly. All those missing is a morning kiss that used to greet me. Say that juice is sour, it used to be so sweet. And can't help but to wonder if you're talking about me. We don't talk the way we used to talk, it's hurting so deep. I got my pride, I will not cry, but it's making me weak. That's right, girls. I'm not the kind of girl that you can let down and think that everything is okay, but I am only human. This girl needs more than a case, you know, from, right, yes, see, but that's what, okay, so if you remember that song, I'm gonna be finished in a minute, but if you remember that song, we sang that song, do you know the words? The words that we mimic in a song? Sometimes we don't know what we're saying, but sometimes the words in the song, we talk about ourselves. You know, we're saying, you're just going through the motion and you're not being fair. I got my pride. I will not cry. Still, I can't help but care. See, we're begging and pleading, and we're singing these songs. We don't even know what we're singing. But this was long ago when it was my time, because this was Karen White, and she sang that. But today, songs are really telling you. And we're repeating what they're saying. And sometimes we're even repeating the negative effects about our life. Or we're in something and we don't know what we're singing. So I think that, you know, it's important that we know how to correct ourselves, because it's all about us. And you are the most important person in this equation. And you have to think about you, because if you're not healthy, you can't be healthy for your kids. You can't be healthy for anyone else. And even if it doesn't apply to you, you can be healthy enough to give someone that information. Because today, everyone, they say every 3 houses. Just because you don't hear me scream don't mean it's not going on. You got some of the most silent abusers out there, and they also are waiting for your reaction. Now they do things where you react, and the next thing you know, the cops are at your house to arrest you, because they don't look at how long he's been doing that to you, and you have had enough. Now you snap. It's your reaction. So now we have to really look at everything when it comes to these relationships. So, all righty, guys, so thank you. I am that jazzy jewel that's ready to rule. Dedicated, delightful, and determined is my tool. Overcoming obstacles, fierce and on the move. Got a brand new attitude and a brand new groove. On this journey, taking God as my guide. He's the driver. I'm just along for the ride. I'm Jacqueline Limehouse from Newark, New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a resource.
See that?
This is a resource.
Sometimes you don't.
I'm so sorry.
Hurricane.
Oh, sure. Let's give her a hand clap. Jacqueline Limehouse, she's a resource that's right here in the city of Newark. If you're looking as an agency to make referrals, her information will be made available. We're going to send out after this conference a resource list, and she will be one of them on the list. Let's give her another hand clap. Our next presenter is one who's very well known to many, Santa Teresa Wilson. She is the CEO of Inspired by You, and she's going to come in her own way to introduce herself, to let you know about her organization, services that are available. And so without any further ado, let's turn it over to Santa Teresa.
Great day, everyone. So I wanted to come in and talk. Inspired by You is an adult trauma recovery facility, but today specifically we wanted to come in and speak about elderly abuse. because this is a domestic violence event, and because that so many times is overlooked when we have events like this. And so I just wanted to give a brief synopsis, and then I wanted to have my social worker who is here to come up and just to give some examples of the cases that we actually have dealt with over the past year. So I have a for-profit and a nonprofit, and so we are funded through the City of Newark, through the for-profit, and through my nonprofit, through the state of New Jersey, to service the elders. And so elderly abuse is the intentional or neglect act by any person that causes harm or serious risk of harm to an older adult. And so normally that is in the form of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, financial, self-neglect, or abandonment. The mic went out. And so just for a quick stat, 1 in 10 older people experience some type of form of abuse, right? And so during COVID, that number doubled to 1 in 5 people. Thank you. And so that is a high number considering that many adults do not report, right? They don't report because, number one, they fear retaliation, right? They fear, a lot of times they're threatened by family members. Sometimes it's a family member, it's a caretaker. And so they're threatened that we're gonna put you in a nursing home, right? We're not gonna come see you. They fear that they're not gonna see their, thank you. They fear that they're not gonna see their family members anymore, their grandchildren, right? And so they don't wanna report, right? And then sometimes they don't report because they're embarrassed. They're very vulnerable, right? They're not as strong as they used to be. They're not as knowledgeable as they used to be. They can't believe they're at this point in their lives anymore, right? They feel like they're too weak. Sometimes they're not believed. They're their only witness. And so when they've gone to the police, like, they don't have anybody to back them, to back their story. So many times they're not believed. It's them against the person that they're going against. Sometimes they're dealing with the onset of dementia, Alzheimer's, right? So they kind of remember that they had something, but can't remember if they did, right? Sometimes they're just unaware, right? That they're even going through something. They lack the resources, and they're not even aware that they've even experienced some type of abuse. And so at this time, I'm not gonna delay. I'm gonna call Lakina up just to kind of go over some of the cases that we've dealt with, just to kind of give you some insight on what we've dealt with over this time, just with some examples of some cases that we've dealt with, just to kind of give you some insight. They've done some studies. It's not a lot. There's only one elderly abuse shelter within the state of New Jersey. There's only 20 within the, it's okay. There's only 20 within the country that only service elders. And so I'm gonna bring her up because some of the cases are sad. And it's not to make you sad, it's really to make you aware. Because sometimes we stick our elders in nursing homes, they go in places. My father was in a nursing home, and I didn't go there all the time. And so when you study and you do the research and you look at it, and your heart will melt when you learn of the things and the possible things that they could be going through, or the fear, right? The lack of resources. And so I'm gonna bring her up and allow her to finish up the presentation.
Good morning. So my name is Lakina Rollins. I work with Santrisa. I am also the manager of the homeless division in the city of East Orange. So I service quite a few different populations. I service domestic violence victims, homelessness, as well as domestic violence, as seniors. Let me just start by saying, believe it or not, a lot of the cases that we've dealt with is ultimately family members, right? There's some, and let's be clear, seniors are one of our most vulnerable populations along with domestic violence victims. So some of the things that we see is, I believe I got a call one day about a grandmother, and she had 2 grandchildren that apparently she took in from childhood. and she was raising these babies as her own, because for whatever reason, the mom and dad couldn't care for them. And apparently the 14-year-old and the 16-year-old was abusing the grandmother. They were physically beating her up. There was videos of her abusing the children, of the children abusing her, and apparently, I'm not sure what the situation was, but for some reason, CP&P didn't get involved, or I believe there was a case for them. There was a case, but for whatever reason, they hadn't removed the children right away. So because of that, we have to get Adult Protective Services involved. Now we need Adult Protective Services to have a conversation with CP&P to find out what is the disconnect and why haven't they moved the children as of yet, right? I had another situation where a granddaughter was caring for her grandmother, and she was financially abusing the grandmother, right? She was linked to her grandmother's bank account so she can pay the grandmother bills, and you can see the transfers from her account from her grandmother's account directly into her account, right? So it was a whole situation of where now the grandmother had to close out her account and start a whole new account because the granddaughter is robbing her and stealing from her. But more importantly, she's not paying grandma bills. So that's ultimately how I got involved, not to handle grandma as a senior because she's being abused, but ultimately she's facing eviction, right? She's facing eviction because her granddaughter is not paying her bills. And, so what are we going to do? Because the last thing anybody wants is anybody homeless on the street, but let alone a senior, right? So we deal with all these different kind of cases. They come on a case by case, right? And we just have to figure it along as we go along with our training. But what I've realized and learned more importantly is that with most of the cases that I've been on, it's the family. Why? Because we trust them, right? We trust our family. We didn't think that they would be the ones to go against us. We would think that they have our best interests at heart, right? Like, I'm sure we're all in this room thinking if we get to that age, who's taking care of us? My son, my daughter, my niece, right? They're gonna make sure I'm good. They probably in my will. They on my life insurance, right? They are beneficiaries, right? If anything happened to you now and you're on your life insurance, that's who's gonna care for you. And it never in 1 ounce, even at this day, as we sit in here today, are we thinking, they're gonna steal my money. They're gonna throw me in a nursing home. They're gonna let the state care for me. And I'm on my own. And they're just gonna take all my money, right? But it happens. It happens more frequently than you guys believe, right? And how do you protect yourself from that, right? Especially when you're raising these babies and you raise these kids, and I make sure they good, they gonna make sure I'm good. Because that's how it goes, right? We make sure we raise them and make sure they're good in their young age so they can make sure we good in our old age. But what happens if that's not the case? And more importantly, how do we prepare for that? So these are some of the things that we deal with on an ongoing basis, and we just service ourselves and do what we need to do to make sure that they're good. We have a really great relationship with the Adult Protective Services. We get them involved in a lot, right? Because they're like CP&P for adults, right? So they have rules and regulations and guidelines that they have to abide by, right? And they absolutely do have power, right? They have power where the state can get involved, right? We can put a guardianship on the senior, right? Where now nobody's in charge of the money. You want the money? There's an allowance that the state gives the senior, and the state sends out the check and makes sure the bills are paid, right? But who wants to go through all of that? It's a lot, right? We don't want an allowance on our money. I done worked all this hard. I got my pension and my Social Security, and now I have to have an allowance? And I'm grown? I done gave to society, and this is what I get back, right? So we just deal with all these different kind of components, and we're still figuring it out on a day-to-day basis, but I just wanted to give you guys some of the cases that we deal with for awareness purposes, right? And also for us to prepare ourselves in any way that we can, right? Maybe you want to have 2 insurance policies, right? The kids is the beneficiary of one, and we're going to make somebody else the beneficiary of the other, right? So, we just want to put some plans in action for future later down the line. Thank you. That's my time.
Okay, that was great. Thank you so very much. Let's give them another hand clap. We're always talking about abuse and how it happens, and not too often do we ever think about elder abuse. And so that was a very good presentation. I want to make sure that when we send out the information of resources to all who are here presenting today, that you will use this, because you never know when you'll have these instances or experiences, and this will help you to have the resources that are needed, that you can pull them right out of your back pocket and be able to help people when they come to your organization. Let's give her another hand clap. Without any further ado, I have someone here that's very near and dear, Najala Ford, Esquire, who is the president of the Association of Black Women's Lawyers, and she has been working with the Shani Baraka Center for close to, if I've been here a year, she's been doing this for 9 months. And so she's the one that is helping. We're going to institute having a law clinic here 1 day a month. We're still working on some of the preliminaries and getting it all established, because you just can't blink your eyes and make it happen. It has to be well thought out, etc. So we're in the process. She's doing a lot of that work, and we're just so glad to have her here. She's just been very instrumental in helping women to know their rights, men to know their rights, and it has expanded that domestic violence not only is limited to females, but now there's a rising number of cases where males are the victims. And so with that being said, we want you to know the Shani Baraka, we have not changed our mission, but we have shifted our service population where now we're able to service men. So if anyone is in need of making a referral and they say, oh, that's a women's center, it is a women's center, but we also meet the needs of men, because there's no gender when it comes to domestic violence. And just remember that there's no gender when it comes to domestic violence. So back to the topic at hand. I'm going to let Ms. Ford come in her own way to talk about her services. She's brought someone with her today that's also going to help to present. I'll let you have the honors of introducing her, but she's no stranger to most of us. Very, very good resource. She's very dedicated, very dynamic. I can't say enough good things about her, so we're going to turn it over to her and let her speak for herself. Give her a hand clap.
Thank you. So again, my name is Nelijah Ford. I, along with my partner, Donette Brown, we have our own law firm, a family law firm, and we service the full state of New Jersey. So we do a ton of cases in Essex County. I'm here almost 3 times a week, some weeks. But we do matrimonial law, child custody, child support, that type of thing, but as well as domestic violence. So what you will learn about the legal side of things, many family attorneys do not do domestic violence work. So they might help you with your custody issues, they may help you with your divorce, but they don't necessarily want to go to that FV docket, which is the DV docket. And what we do is specialize in domestic violence as well as the rest of the family law stuff. So just as an overview, domestic violence, when you get to the court side of things, sits in the family law area. So like, for example, this is at a 212 Washington Street thing, not a 50 Market Street thing. This is at the family court. If the DV incident had any criminal charges attached to it, that has a separate track at the criminal court. So whether it be municipal court in your town or at 50 Market, at Veterans Courthouse, because it's now some type of felony or what we call indictable offense. So a criminal offense. So I usually like to back people up, because we talk about domestic violence, we talk about support services, we talk about safety planning, we talk about resources for finances. That's exactly what a Shani Baraka Center will do for you, that piece of it. When it's time to now go into obtaining a restraining order, so a temporary restraining order, and then possibly a final restraining order, or pursuing criminal charges against someone, that's now where it falls into the legal side of things, where they cannot advise. They don't have right now have the capability to advise on things like that. So that's what Pastor Pam was mentioning, that we're trying to merge services and bring some people here to be able to maybe once a month touch base on those types of issues. But of course, our firm is always open. We do free consultations. You are able to call, book with us to talk about your DV issues, as well as the services that are attached. You know, so many domestic violence victims have children or are married to the perpetrator, right? So we do full service. It's not just the, you know, the DV piece. We're able to handle the full legal spectrum of those types of issues. And I guess the main point is that when it comes down to domestic violence, the law is catching up. It's not necessarily as intuitive as people or one would assume. So again, with physical violence, it's pretty cut and dry. That's what the law is really built for, physical attacks, that type of thing. And what people don't understand is that there are what's called a predicate act, so there has to be something that happened that triggered you to either call the police or go down to the courthouse to obtain a restraining order. That predicate act has to meet 18, well, now 19, different levels of crimes. So if it doesn't hit what would be considered one of those 19 predicate act crimes, you can't get a restraining order, right? So the predicate acts, just to make you aware, so of course homicide, I mean you can't get a restraining order if you're not with us anymore, but there's criminal sexual contact, there's assault, there's lewdness, there's terroristic threats, that's like, I'll kill you, something like that. Robbery, stalking, criminal mischief, kidnapping, burglary, criminal restraint, criminal trespass, false imprisonment, contempt, criminal coercion, harassment, sexual assault, and cyber harassment. And the new one is
any other crime involving risk of death or serious bodily injury. And this new added section is important because choking has now been elevated from strangulation. Because he choked me out. That's what I get. So strangulation now is a second degree act where the person, the individual, if charged, can go to jail. It's no longer like a third degree or lower degree.
No, it's what we again indictable offense, aka a felony. So it's raised the degree level, and it's the penalties are very high. But at any rate, as you can hear from those 19 different crimes, there's a lot that's kind of in that gray area, right? So oftentimes I have to talk to people and I'm gonna say, I understand that happened to you. I understand how that made you feel, but I have to sometimes say, that's not domestic violence under the law, which is very different from it being domestic violence overall. Right? So that's the biggest distinction that I like to tell people up front, because that's good education so that people are aware. Because, and I'm not sure if Reverend Limehouse is still here, but what she was saying is true. I would like to focus my energy on teaching healthy relationships, right? Or promoting that type of thing to show you, okay, that first red flag, get out, right? That first time he hit you, call the police. That first time, right? So we let things cycle. And then we have a ton of events that have been unreported that we can't really use to obtain a restraining order. So with that predicate act, which is the word that I used before about those 19 kind of different crimes, if that is not a current act, you cannot get a restraining order. You can't go to the court and say, well, for 20 years, he's been putting his hands on me. They're gonna say, so what happened today?
You never reported the other one.
What happened last week even? They might give you that. Or what happened last month. But you can't go to the courthouse or go to the police and say, you can go to the police for assaults and things of that nature. There's this longer statute of limitations. But for the purposes of obtaining a restraining order, it has to be something that just pretty much occurred. It can't be 2 years ago, he choked me and I still can't get over it, right? If you say, okay, he choked me 2 years ago, but he's now been harassing me. He won't stop texting me. He won't stop calling me. And he choked me 2 years ago. So I can use that prior history along with what's currently happening, which would be, say, the harassment. But that's, again, education and knowledge is power. And I like to say that to people, especially service providers, because it's something, it gives perspective, about how to encourage people to report in time and report kind of when things are happening, because it can affect their legal rights as far as obtaining the restraining order. Outside of that, with the process, obtaining a temporary restraining order, again, if you have your predicate act, so something that happened recently, and then this prior history of things, even if you don't have a prior history, something happened, and now you have this temporary restraining order. Is that a question?
Yes.
Can I just finish? I'm gonna finish this one time, and then I'm gonna get to you. So, in the event that happens, the temporary restraining order is kind of a lower threshold. Most people will be able to obtain a temporary restraining order. The next step of that process is going for a final restraining order. In between that time, a lot of people will drop them. A lot of people will decide to, reconcile. A lot of people will get back into that cycle. That's something where, at that point, it's gone, it's dismissed. And when a DV restraining order is dismissed, the courts are going to treat it as if it's a dismissal. That person is now kind of wiped. It'll be on their record that one was filed, but they can't give it but so much weight. So in the future, if you go back, it's like, okay, we can see what happened with that, but again, it was dismissed. But the next stage would be going forward with the restraining order to have a hearing. And at that hearing, you have to prove two major things. It's a two-pronged test. One, that the predicate act was met. So you can accuse someone of harassment, you can accuse someone of stalking, you can accuse someone of strangulation, but you have to prove it. It's a court, right? It's not the Shani Baraka Women's Center, right? Like, we're gonna listen to victims, we're gonna believe women, we're gonna believe men who say they've been through things, but the court has a different level of scrutiny. So I always have to do that dual role where I'm, again, I don't wanna ever invalidate anybody's feelings. I don't ever want to say, this is not a big deal, get over it. That's not at any point what I'm saying. I'm saying that the case has to be proven in a court of law differently than, say, the court of public opinion or our just conversation. And what happens at that point is you either receive one or it gets dismissed by the courts on its merits. And on its merits means you haven't proven your case, right? Which is so disheartening, and I think can sometimes re-victimize, it can trigger all of these things. But that's why it's important to understand kind of the tract and understand the process, because I think informed decisions are the best ones, right? So the more information we can spread about the process, I don't have to be disappointing people all the time, or I'm able to now really help them advocate for themselves through that process and be able to advocate for them through that process. Okay, so you had a question.
So you said that to get a restraining order, it has to be something based on a recent action. So let's just say, like you brought up, like they choked you 6 months ago or something like that. What time frame does it need? Does the action have to take place for it to be considered like predicate or recent? Because what if somebody choked you 3 months ago, but you were traumatized and you were too scared to come forward, and then in 3 months' time, you get up the courage to come forward?
So that is something, again, so strangulation, for example, is a criminal offense. You can always call the police, right? Whether or not you're able to obtain a restraining order would depend on if there's still something else going on, right? That you need protections away from this person. So, meaning somebody choked you 6 months ago and you never see them again, you can still press charges, but a court would say you're not in need of protections because you don't have any contact. You can press the criminal charge, but the restraining order itself. Because, and let me explain those two prongs. So one is that there was a predicate act, so something happened. And the second part of that prong is without protections like this, you will be in danger. That's what a restraining order is for. It's not so much punitive as opposed to prevention of future acts of domestic violence. So yeah, getting strangled 6 months ago and I haven't seen this person since, that's not restraining order territory, but it definitely is second-degree criminal charges territory. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Anything you want to add, Donette?
No, I think you covered it. You captured the last part. It's very important to report it. Even if you don't go anywhere with it, at least you have records of it. And it's very helpful to us as lawyers because how you prove your case is by evidence. If he kicked the door in, you take a picture of that broken lock. If you do nothing with it. If he did choke you and you have markings on your neck, take pictures of it. I've gotten so many videos, people don't even understand. The other thing I do want to point out with recording, everyone sort of confuses this. They think that you cannot record conversations with another individual because I don't know what people think, but I'm just going to give you a little piece of advice. If something is happening to you and you are part of a conversation, New Jersey allows one person consent to record conversations, but you cannot record Nalaja and I having a private conversation in another room. That's now called whistleblowing, and that's something totally different. But if you can record a conversation that you're involved in and you're getting berated, you're being talked to in a manner, even if the fight happens and the recorder is on, that's a piece of evidence that works for us, works in your favor, and we don't walk away with the disappointment of we can't get this final restraining order on your behalf. So just report, keep documentation, and overall just be safe.
Yeah. And just, on that piece of it, like I said, it's difficult. Hi, Reverend Limehouse. I just shouted you out quickly, but it's important to recognize that we are attorneys in a court of law. Some days I wish I was a magician. Some days I wish I could go into this, change the way the system is. That's why we work hard. Like I sit on the Supreme Court Domestic Violence Board. I'm pushing for legislation to kind of expand definitions and to expand things, but we're not there yet. And so with that limited powers, and with the limited, the narrow standard that the courts have to follow, we have to teach each other, especially as service providers and people who are in this field, or even people who are just talking person to person, to spread that awareness, that knowledge, this information, so that people are more in tune to what the court can and what they can't do. Are arguments rising to the level of domestic violence for the purpose of a restraining order? No, they're not. Mutual fights? No. If you slap him and he slaps you back, it wipes the slate, right? So these are things, like we see a lot of toxic relationships. So many toxic relationships. And I was actually just talking to Donette about, a case that I'm working on right now, and I'm like, when the story is being told, we get one side of it, right? When we go to court, it's always, in court, when you get the surprise videos of your person maybe acting up just as much, so, and that's also something that I want to make sure that everybody is clear on. The court will consider that a mutual fight.
And just to add one thing, Nalaja and I were in court, I think we were in Burlington County, and the judge was giving his ruling, and he said, she gave as good as she was getting.
She gave as good as she was getting, yeah.
I was taken aback with that.
And
because
that was a case where both parties got final restraining orders.
Yes.
So I won my case, they won their case, right? We both proved that they needed restraints. And they have both...
Three children?
They have three children, and they both are restrained
from each other.
They both have FROs against each other.
Yeah. And just remember, the only way a FRO goes away is if the victim
dismisses it,
or they die,
or a motion to the court. But it has, it's not an easy process.
Yeah, it's not an easy process.
So when granting, FROs are not granted as easily as temporary, and when I say FRO, I mean final restraining order. TRO is temporary restraining order. So they're not granted as often as temporary restraining orders because they are forever in New Jersey. Other states have expiration periods. New Jersey does not. So it does not go away, again, unless there's a dismissal, a motion to the court, or, and even I actually have a person that I'm representing right now, his ex-wife had a restraining order against him, passed away, and we are still litigating to try to get the restraining order removed because
It's a hard.
It's, you know, so that's why there are not just handing them out, right? They want to make sure that this person, but for this piece of paper, you will not be safe. So in the example that we just spoke about, yeah, he choked me one time or he punched me one time, it may not rise, especially if there's no like, you know, if you, say it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, no children involved, you never have to see this person again, they're gonna weigh that as a factor. If they know there's children in common, if they know you guys are married, if they, you know, whatever the relationship, those are all standards that a judge would weight to determine whether or not he should grant this final restraining order. How egregious the conduct was, right? And I've also had cases where it's just like, you know, the person was calling hundreds of times, right? That meets harassment, and that is going beyond it. So now, yes, even just for phone calls, you have to be restrained with this final restraining order. So it just depends on the conduct. And it's hard to give a hard and fast rule because it's so fact specific. The best thing that I can say for you guys to take with you today is just, again, documentation, you know, and reporting. You know, speaking up, utilizing agencies like this, finding, you know, your voice and all of that, because it's so hard once that train has left the station to go backwards.
Is there any legal recourse for the person that's innocent that has somebody try to get a temporary restraining order against them and it's false?
So we do what's called 360 practice. We do cases like that where we know, you know, it's kind of a blatant retaliation or something like that. And I always say those are the cases that I will do defense work. I typically do plaintiff side, but I do those ones because that's also abuse. People will be the true victims with restraining orders against them. Like, so I've had those cases as well. And I've had a woman who I've had to say, yo, you have to go file yours. He beat you to the punch again because that's part of the power and control, right? So everybody's deserving of a defense in those types of cases, and the other person has to prove it still, you know? And I think judges are very clear when it's that type of situation, especially when there's no documentation. You know, if you're making something up, like I think the case that I had, the client filed a restraining order because she wouldn't give him the remote control to the TV. Like, you know, that's not going anywhere fast in court. But he's saying, okay, she threatened me and she wouldn't give me the remote. That literally is what his TRO said. I went down to the courthouse with her because she had been beating with belts. She had been, you know, screamed at. She had been, you know, was beating on the child. I mean, it was just so much. And she wasn't going to speak up, but for him filing a restraining order against her. So that's why kind of the conversation and spreading awareness about this cycle of abuse and understanding is so important, because come to find out, once I was representing her, she was sexually assaulted by him their first date.
Wow.
Right? The red flags. It was, you know, so that's why these conversations, these types of centers, my Sister's Lighthouse, all of those organizations are so important, because it's a different type of thing that social service organizations can do than what I can do as an attorney. I can't go back to that first date, right? And I can, you know, mention it in a court of law, but again, predicate acts. It's a narrow scope of what I can talk about and what I can do. And if it's not disclosed to anyone, you know, how do we even know to utilize that? So that's my piece. Does anybody have any questions for me? I'm here all the time. Donette and I will be, like I said, starting this clinic here where we have volunteer pro bono attorneys here at least once a month. But we do have our cards, and feel free to come grab one when we take a little break. But we do this work on a day-by-day basis. So thank you for having us.
Thank you.
When I first met them, I was so intrigued because there were so many questions that they answered that we were unable to answer here at Shani because we just didn't know the legal side. And by having them as our partner, it makes us more apt to be able to help people in such a special way. And so I really want to have you give them a special hand clap because this is really a work that, and you know what? They're doing it pro bono, and they don't have to. They don't have to. But that's the heart that they have. And so can you just give a clap for their heart to encourage them? That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. We're going to now move on. This is another lady. Are you getting good information today about different areas, just all types of areas? This is beautiful. I have another lady in the house today who is par excellent in everything that she does. In fact, when I first met her, when I came on board here at the Shani Baraka Center, I just had this level of admiration because she just spoke volumes, not only in what she said, but what she does. And with that being said, reaching out to the community in special ways, working on projects that have impact not to just one person or one area, but the entire city of Newark, and even impacting outside of the city of Newark, just in areas that are unimaginable. And so I've admired her for that because of her level of organization, her level of administration, but more importantly, her connectivity to the city of Newark. So without any further ado, I'm talking about none other than Dr. Shani Brown. Dr. Shani Brown is the Chief Educational Officer, Office of Comprehension, Community Education. And what she agreed, and I'm so honored to have her, she's gonna talk about, have any of you ever had cases of domestic violence and the children are in school and they're so busy trying to make sure that they're protected that then the question comes up as like almost an afterthought, now what do I do with my children? And then that becomes a priority. So we want her in her own way to come talk about her programs here in the city of Newark, but in addition, her assignment is to talk about how we can equip parents who have school-aged children that are going through domestic violence. So come on up, my sister. We're so glad to have you. You must step out of the way.
I'll
Thank
add
you.
my name to it. Hello, everybody. Good morning. How are you? That was just also a great presentation. My name is Shani Brown, and I am going to be, they gave me a task, and I don't think I can do it. Hold on. Oh, here we go. All right, I'm going to be talking about ensuring that you can navigate school systems while our young people are struggling with domestic violence. And I think that we think that this is not something that affects us, but I just want to start off with just some statistics so you can see what I'm saying. Nearly 1 in 4 girls experience what they call sexual or unwanted pressure around teen dating. Why am I starting with this? I'm going straight to sexual, but I'm trying to go hard and then back up, if you will let me go to. 1 in 3 adolescents is a survivor. And so for me, I need, if I point to you just every third person, raise your hand. I think we need to see how many people that is. So can you just humor me? You're a third person. When I point to you, raise your hand. Hi, come on, hi. You are a third person. 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 Come on, raise your hand. You are a third person. Just look around. This is the statistic for our babies. This is not the statistic for us. This is a statistic for our babies. That is a lot of people. 1 in 10 is bad. 1 in 3 is absolutely scary. And and I'm a former educator. I've spent 28 years in the system. I've been a substitute teacher, English chairperson, vice principal, and principal. The amount of domestic violence in schools is unsettling. And I just retired 3 years ago and came over to the city side to do some work with Mayor Baraka. I've worked with all his educational initiatives. And as I was exiting, it was getting worse and worse. Couple of things, I know this in my presentation later, but I want to just start off with it because I think we should just hear it. Not only is 1 in 3 bad, but I want you to just hear this. Black women are disproportionately more likely to die at the hands of their abuser. And I know we, again, think of statistics, we think of adults, but I'm intentionally using that statistic because our young people are experiencing violence. It says, not just domestic violence, so just work with me. So I just want to preface it. By 12, our children are experiencing violence. By 12 years old, they're being purposely hit and bullied. Now, when we go into abuse, I think it's really important to talk about what is abuse, right? And then how it can fit. And then I think it's our responsibility to just kind of implement this call of action acronym that I didn't create. It actually comes from the World Health Organization, but I think it would just be really helpful for us to say how we can get active and not be passive. It may not be your story, but those hands, I can have my 3s, raise your hand one more time. It's going to impact you even if it's not happening specifically to your child. It might be your child's friend who's in your house every day, right? And so it is impacting you, and so we can't be passive. All right, so I'm gonna try to go through some of this thing quickly, and I'm gonna try to be interactive so we can have a little good time. But when we leave here, I want us to remember this acronym. That's fair? Yes. All right, I'm gonna go fast. And why they give me this? They know they shouldn't give me this. But I can do that, Cheyenne. I can do that. Okay. All right, I can roll the thing. Okay. Now, domestic violence also has another name, and I know you might know this, but intimate partner violence. And I think that's important to acknowledge the names, because one other statistic I wanted to talk about is intimate partner violence is significantly a public health problem in the same-sex relationships. LGBT people are more likely to experience IPV than non-LGBTQ people. Why am I starting off with this? It's in my presentation later. That was on the rise when I was a principal. We as educators, when there's a same-sex relationship going on and there's some violence, when you come in, I might have to report it as a fight because I can't disclose 2 things. I can't disclose your child might be a part of the LGBT community. I can't also disclose that they're in a relationship. Why am I saying this? Because as a principal from the other side, I saw that increase drastically. I'm saying this because we need to talk to our children. If somebody is a friend and they end up fighting their friend, we're so tired, we're so busy, and you're working, you're paying bills. I'm trying to pay my bills, I'm trying to pay all of them at the same time. And it's just all over the place. I need more hours. So we're really doing things to survive. And I say that because we need to give ourselves some grace, right? And not go in this thing with some guilt, but also come out of it and say, I know I'm tired, but, right? We need to talk to our children because sometimes our children are in same-sex relationships and they're fighting one another, and understand that abuse is always about power. And so anytime we're in a relationship, there's going to be a power dynamic. Anybody want to repeat that? Anytime we are in a relationship, we deal with power. Okay. All right, because abuse is about power. It is not about anything else. Love is not abuse. That's number one. And abuse is about power. Okay, dating violence. This is somebody who's in a romantic relationship, but I want to talk about digital, because this is something our kids face probably more than anything else. You need to have access to your children's social media. And everything. I mean, back in the day when computers first came out, remember you could only put it in the living room and it was a desktop, right? It was on the kitchen, so you had to go in the living room, and everything you was doing, your mother can walk past, and your dad can walk past, your uncle can walk past, grandma can walk past and see it.
You had to plug the phone in.
Come on now.
$1.
Right, and then when we had landlines, we can pick up the phone in another room and listen to your whole conversation. Remember that thing? I'm talking to my 70s, 80s babies. I'm sorry, I'm just having a little fun. But I say that to say, because we always think we understand something, and we don't. This is, can Aaliyah raise your hand, and Lucy raise your hand. This is the education officer. Stand up. I just like to give them a shout out, because we work hard. We small but mighty. Hey y'all. That's all. I just want to shout you out before I get finished. But the reason why I think this is important, because we have to understand that we are also having generational gaps, right? It's not the same. People are being bullied and abused. I mean, that cyber digital abuse is real. It's terrible. And I'm saying this because it also, and I have to find the statistic, I'm all over the place, but I'll get to it before I leave, is leading to suicide, y'all. I'm sorry. You know, in every presentation, I let people know I'm a new mother. You know, they laugh at me because you don't know I have a child, right? But I waited so long, I'm so happy about it, you know. But here's the thing, we don't invest all this in our babies for them to have somebody else abuse them. And then they take their own life. That, to me, I can start crying right now, the thought that this stuff is going on. So I'm begging us that we can't be active once we become a victim. We have to be proactive so we can prevent this stuff. Everybody say we need to prevent it. We need to prevent it. We need to prevent it. We need to prevent it in adult relationships. When you have a friend and you know what's going on, whisper in their ear. Try to send them places where if they're not listening to you. Go to the, I'm not saying tell on them, but try to get them to talk about it. But we have to keep one another alive, right? So I wanted to talk about digital abuse. All right, there are other types of abuse, but I just want to give you, well, I already did that, so I can come back to that. In schools, it's a law in New Jersey that they have to talk about this. It has to be embedded in the curriculum. So sometimes when we go to schools and we really don't know what to ask the administrators, let's start with this. Are you teaching dating violence education? And if so, what grade? And if it's a grade that you think is not soon enough, right, because it really should start in middle school, right? All right, make sure that you know about that information. 50 to 80% of teens have reported knowing others who are involved in violent relationships. 80%?
That's almost all of them.
That's almost all of them. All right, other types of abuse. We got emotional abuse. This is important because we don't really acknowledge it like we should. Like was mentioned, we put a lot of emphasis on physical. But emotional is anything that damages your self-worth and self-esteem and is not limited to constant criticism. Honestly, that's a check on how we even raise our children, right? Because just to give you some culturally dynamics, there are some culturally dynamics, and I'm going to speak as an African American, and I apologize, I'm not trying to offend, I'm just sharing my experiences. Culturally, we live in an environment where there was so much danger around blackness, right? That we're almost afraid for our children, and it manifests in criticism. Why'd you comb your hair? Why your pants sagging? You're going in because you're looking at them how society will look at them, and you know that when society is out there, it's dangerous. I really want to say that, and I'm not saying that that is abuse. In some cases, it may be. But I just want to know that constant criticism is a form of abuse. Like, you can't do anything right. You don't know how to do that. Anybody know how to do that? Why you make that leg? Do you know I fold this way? I put my towels this way. Like, why? I'm saying that to say because there is a level of agency every human being should be able to have. If I want to fold my towels and they look like this, right? You know what I'm saying? As long as they're folded and put up. We have to create environments where we challenge that and call out this thing for what it is. And I think that's a preventive measure. All right, I'm going to move on. Having a safety plan. If your friend doesn't listen to you in any other way, ask them one day when you're going out to Panera Bread, can we do you a safety plan? Have them a space where they can reflect without criticism so they can plan their way out. Because some people are not planning, and this is also for our children, they're not planning their way out because they are afraid of these people. And so I want you to know that it's okay. There are people, and I'm going to get to this later, there are people in the school system that will help them with this. We have HIB coordinators, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Every school has one, right? Find out who that is. Tell your child just because. Like, did you know in your school, and I'm just going to use a school, did you know in your school in Central Miss Works is the HIB coordinator? Just ask them. Why is that important? Because documentation, right? They are responsible for helping assist. And they may not disclose it to you that they're in that type of situation, but they may have good relationships with their school counselors, the HIB coordinator. I even add the school nurse because these are trained reporters, okay? And a school nurse is even good because when it comes down to that documentation, if you have physical abuses, you can say, I went to the school nurse and showed her my arm or whatever, and then the school nurse is now evidence. Right, okay. All right, I probably have 2 more minutes, so I'm going to move on. I said that. I'm glad I said some stuff. All right, I said that. Good job. Okay, so I want to go to this one last part. All right. Okay. So I gave you a lot of information, and trust me, there's plenty more. I have sheets and sheets and sheets. We can actually put this way. I just pull statistics. It's all on the site. I believe that this is an important acronym because everybody should get involved. Every organization has the responsibility to get involved. This is from the World Health Organization, and I was going to sing Respect, but I heard, I said, oh man, she stole my thunder. I was going to sing, right? And I didn't know which Respect song. Should I do Aretha or should I do a club song? Respect me, I didn't know. I didn't know, but I'm saying that because this is a way we can get involved. I did this last time I came here. Raise your hand and say, I will get involved. Come on, raise your hand. Not the 1 in 3. No, I need 100% say, I will get involved. My brother now, okay, all right, praise God. He raised his hand. I'm gonna have to, I had the lawyer's hairs on there. I didn't have one a strong arm or anything, right? But I'm going to go through this really quickly, but these are all ways that are called to action. These are research-based strategies because I believe in research-based strategies because they work, right? And we have evidence that they do work. How can I get involved? This is an acronym. The first one for R is relationship skill strengthening. I think no matter what community you're in, they actually have real programs that, like all global programs, actually use to counsel people. So this is a little different from what I'm even suggesting. I'm suggesting on maybe not a research-based programmatic level, but no matter what organization you're in, and I'm specific, especially if you're in schools, I think you should have spaces where they talk about relationship strengthening. This can happen in a church. I know my church used to have marriage couples, and things like that. I know that's not the name, but I can't think. But please come up with some type of strategy and what goes on in this relationship building. Women experience IPV in relationships where communication, have less IPV when communication is strong. So even if you have programs where people are in relationships and they can come and they actually talk about how to communicate, how to advocate, right? If there are power dynamics in relationships, IPV increases. When we have ideas on what a woman should do, those are spaces where IPV. So just really getting the partners to know, even in these relationships, that we need to not necessarily rethink, but change some of the attitudes where there might be a lot of masculinity, a heavy emphasis on masculinity, machismo, and things like that, and just really getting us to talk about those things and really call it out as a power dynamic. But those things, having conversations about this, rethinking what women should be doing and how they, and communication, those things increase the probability that a woman will not be in a domestic violence situation. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. Empowerment of women. This is one we all can do. I'm so excited about this one. Developing programs where women are empowered, right? Getting in spaces where we talk about our self-worth, right? I know back in the day, she's now a congresswoman, but I know a congresswoman, LaMonica MacGyver, used to use Central, and they used to do Girls and Gals, right? I know a grassroots organization, they used to use Central sometimes. They had an organization, Grassroots. All right, why am I saying this? Getting women, young girls to feel good about themselves, to increase their self-esteem, to prepare them for warning signs, to get them to be able to handle life in a relationship or without a relationship, right? And getting them to speak up and speak out, those things help prevent IPV. We can do that. We can do that. All right, create an environment where services are insured, and they should be talked about. If they're, like for instance, I know schools go through a bullying, it's early, it's in October, it's the bullying month. To me, it's a great time to talk about dating violence before the school year gets underway. And let everybody know, we have an HIV coordinator, Miss such and such. Make sure that the services are in place before DV happens, and it prevents it. And this one was interesting, and I know I might have 1 minute, and I probably said that 1 minute ago. All right, but poverty is reduced. This narrative that we're waiting for our partner, and this is not just in heterosexual relationships, but same-sex relationships. We cannot depend on someone else for our financial stability.
That's right. That's right.
We're not waiting for Superman or Superwoman to allow us not to work.
That's right. That's right.
And people have agency, they can live any life they want to live. That's not what this presentation is about. This is about ensuring that our young girls break the cycle of poverty, yes. Right? So they're not remaining in relationships in order to be stable.
That's right.
Right? And this is not to say that just because you have a big bank account, you're not going to experience IPV. That I don't want you to. Right? But it goes back to that safety plan. If you have to leave, can you live on your own? Can you move out? Can you set up an apartment without somebody knowing, right? They won't miss anything, right? I'm talking serious. You have to have a safety plan. I actually remember I had a friend in college, and she was experiencing abuse by somebody who was caring for her. And she actually gave me her money to hold. Now, I wouldn't do that, like, for nobody, for like, get a bank account. But she gave me her money, I put it in a shoe, and she ended up getting her own apartment. And so I'm saying this stuff is really happening if I can even reflect on my own life. All right, I have 3 more to go. Enable environments, school and workplaces to be created, that this is spoken about, is widely known, is set up to prevent it. You have to create institutions that are student ready to address issues that are existing. We can't ignore them. The next one is prevent child, hold on, they just came out of it. They was tired of me. Okay, prevent child and adolescent abuse. That is also connected to IPV. Sometimes children or adolescents who are unsafe either become abusers or repeat the cycle. And the last and final thing, let's transform attitudes, beliefs, and norms. Transform an environment where patriarchy, sexism, all these other isms that create barriers that make IPV thrive. And isolation. This is not on there, but I want to talk about isolation. Isolation is one of the first environments where abuse can thrive, because you're isolated. So try not to isolate. I know you might be excited, you're in a new marriage or something like that. Or even young people, you know how you got best girlfriends, but when they get in that relationship, they ghost, you know what I'm saying? They'll call you no more, you'll hang out, because they ain't got time. That is also can lay the foundation for abuse. So just even when we get in relationships, and even when our young people get in relationships, just still maintaining relationships with their mother, still relationships with the father, still having relationships with their friends, right? Because isolation is the environment that they happen. So I just want to end with a 1-800-799-SAFE as the number. There's also even a text that you can type again to 88788. Though I really wanted to show it, but I just want you to understand that our young people are experiencing this, and we have to be proactive and make sure that we are doing everything in its power to create the environment which IPV either is reduced or totally eliminated. Be safe out there, y'all. Thank you. That's all I have.
Let's give her another hand clap. Wasn't that phenomenal? Before we begin the next presentation, I have these little pieces of paper that I want you to take one, and I want you to legibly write your name on this piece of paper. And then after the next presentation, I'm going to ask that you pass them all forward. So if you would do that for me now. Would you help me out, Cheyenne? Let's give Cheyenne a hand clap. Cheyenne is working on all of our presenters and helping them with their technology needs. She's phenomenal with that. Okay. Make sure that you write, you can just put you can put your first name and last name, your first name and last name initial, however you think that you can be identified, because we're going to be calling on you. So please. Make sure that you, and this is only for our visitors, not for our staff. And okay. For our next presenter, I'm so honored that in the absence of Deputy Mayor Lakeisha Uri, who was unable to be here because of her plane being delayed, and she won't get in until later today, but she had a wonderful idea, and she says, you know what, I'm interested in the statistics being shared today with your group. And she says, none other would be the victims unit to do that. And so the victims unit just happened to be right across the hall, which was a real easy fix. But there is this one young lady that I called on. I sent her a text message yesterday about 1 o'clock in the afternoon fixing this. And she was the right remedy, because I could not even begin to tell you how willing she was at the 11th hour to come over today to make this presentation, because she loves what she does. She's understanding of what's going on in the community, and she's an excellent communicator. So without any further ado, I want to make sure that you receive her and that you receive her well as she comes with the statistics. Oyetta, if you would do me the honors of coming up, Sergeant, and allowing us to just let you introduce yourself, talk about the victims unit, but then share the statistics accordingly. And don't forget, fill out your paper, and after her presentation, let's hurriedly, in a hurry, kind of pull it all up to the front, and we'll put it together and make sure, because you're going to be able to maybe win a prize. How's that?
Good morning, or good afternoon, or whatever it is for us.
Morning, still morning?
Okay, I'm out of breath, guys, because I've been running back and forth, because we have a case right now, so I'm like running back and forth, so apologies, okay? And if my phone rings, sorry again, okay? Because we're developing something right now that it was missing kids. We actually found them, we tracked them down, and we found them, so, okay? And they were missing from New York. And we tracked them down, we made phone calls, we went on the street. I had people, they called me 6 o'clock this morning, and I said, nope, we're getting on this now, got everything, and now we got them. All right, so I'm like just going back and forth, so I'm so sorry. My name is Sergeant Jermaine Poyat. I've been on the force for 24 years. I came on when I was 25 years old. The reason why I'm very passionate about domestic violence, because I was once a victim, now I'm victorious, okay? I basically used to, I'm out of breath. I basically, while I was in the force, I was getting abused. And I used to hide it, all the time, until I basically said, it's time for me to open up, and I told my truth, I told my story, and I'm here today at the Special Victims Unit helping females. I actually been at the Special Victims as a detective for 11 years, and then as a supervisor for now 2 years. Like I said, I'm extremely passionate about it. I know a lot of people don't believe that police officers are passionate about what they do. We really are. It's just that we don't have a lot of resources. Basically, when I first came on, while I was a detective, we didn't have a lot of resources. We didn't have Shani, Baraka. We didn't have anything like this. And I used to pay for victims my own money to put them up in hotels, because I knew how it was. So with that being said, I'm here to talk about what goes on in North. Our Special Victims Unit is right across the hall. A lot of people don't know about us because we try not to spread it out too much, because there is sexual assault victims also coming next door. We investigate sexual assaults, missing person, domestic violence, bias crimes, endanger the welfare of the elderly, endanger the welfare of children, you name it, we got it, okay? And a lot of other things that, a lot of victims, I still speak to victims from when I first became a detective. And I first became a detective in 2003, okay? And I still keep in contact with some of my victims, because that's how passionate I am about it. Damn, I was running a lot fast. All right, basically, from September 29th, I'm the one who prints out all, and I count down all of the jobs coming in from North, the ones that's called in from North, okay, because not everybody calls in a job. The ones that's called in from September 29th, from January of 2024 to September 29th, for aggravated assault. Now, this is just aggravated assault because this is like with any type of weapon, if a person lost consciousness or whatever. Guys, we had 423 calls that came in, okay? Last year, it was 378, so it went up. It's a bad thing that it's going up, but it's a good thing that it's going up because now people are actually speaking and reporting about it, okay? Strangulations. We no longer call choking strangulations. I'm sorry, choking anymore. We call them strangulations now. Because before, when we first, when I first became a detective, we used to say that, grabbing the neck was choking and all that. That's not choking. Choking is when you choking on the food or something. So they changed it to strangulations now, so that's what we did. We did strangulations now. And for strangulations, we had, for this year so far, 279. Last year, we had 270. Okay? For violation of restraining orders, for people who's violated all restraining orders, whether it's a court order or, a temporary restraining order, a final restraining order, we had 145. That actually went down from 195. And I guess that's it for domestic, because they said only talk about domestic, so. Because I have everything. I'm the one who do the stats for everything that goes on over there. And basically, we have an increase of males are the ones who's actually reporting now. And we're very, very, I am very happy for that because a lot of males tend to not report, all right? And we're seeing a lot of males reporting now, which I'm extremely excited about because now they're not acting mature or with their pride or whatever, and they're not worrying about what their friends say. They're actually reporting it. So that's one thing that I would love to applaud the men for. And whenever I see a man in my office, I'm like, yes, thank you, because I'm really, like what I say is I do a lot of public speaking. And I said, I'm like the male's voice because they don't really speak, Women have everybody to speak for, but males don't, So I said, I'm their mouthpiece. So with that being said, I don't know what else to say. So if you guys want to ask questions, y'all can ask questions, Yes. Okay, with the school system, we have CSOs that's in the school system. And how it goes is I do a lot of public speaking in the schools, okay? I really haven't went to Newark yet, but where I live, I go there every year, okay? And whenever I go to the schools, I'm not going to lie to you, it's at least 2 teenagers coming up to me and I have to do reports for them, okay? The schools are very big in domestic violence and our young females are not speaking about it, all right? And I think they're not speaking about it is because they're afraid to basically speak about it because they don't know what their parents will do to know that they're dating, and they don't know, what will happen to the boy that they claim that they love. So it's a lot of times that is unreported, which we have to speak to our young, our young teenagers now, including the guys, because when I do public speaking, a lot of people are surprised for what I'm about to tell you, and you might be surprised. My ex-husband, who was my abuser, also comes along and speaks with me because he speaks with me as a former abuser. Because and we're better friends now than we were married, and so I'm very privileged of him coming with me all the time, taking his time out and coming with me whenever I need him, whenever I call to him or whenever I need him and he comes out, and he tells his story, and he opens a lot of young men's eyes, a lot. I also tell young females, just because you're a president, a rich person, or a poor person. We all have the same story sometimes. Okay? And with me, I don't care where you're from. I don't care what nationality, I don't care what gender type you like, I don't care anything about that. If you're telling me you need me to speak to you, I'm the type of person that will pick up a phone 3 o'clock in the morning and I'll listen to you, okay? And I always ask, the questions I always ask is, do you want me to be your mother? Do you want me to be your friend? Or do you want me to be the cop? Or what do you want me to be? Or do you want me to just listen? Sometimes they just say listen. I'm like, okay, I listen. They'll yell at me, curse at me. I'm like, you done? I'm like, you done? Because I only could take so much cursing at me. You done? And, you know, because sometimes people just need you to listen to them. That's all they need. They don't need your, oh, well, I should have, could have. No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't have. No, you couldn't have. You know, because when I was there, and that's why I'm happy God had placed me into special victims, because I was abused from age 19 up until, I say about age 26, about 26, okay? And I came on the force at 25. I had just had my daughter 2 weeks prior, and they called me on the force. And I went into the academy 2 weeks, not telling them anything, that I just had a baby, and you got, women know, we just had those stitches, it hurts. But I went in, I started doing my exercises, thinking about my daughter, because I said, I got to get out of this household some way, somehow. You know, because he was the one who was paying the majority of the bills. So I said, I got to get out of here some way, somehow. And so I was doing exercising until a stitch popped. I was in so much pain, and they were, you know, in the academy, they yell at you, like, ugh, you know. And I'm like, they're like, get up. And I'm like, I can't. And they said, why? I said, because I just popped a stitch. They're like, what are you talking about, stitch? And I was like, just had a baby. They're like, what? You know, and so, because I did it, I wanted to do it for my daughter. I kept picturing my daughter in my head and said, I'm going to get this done for her, to get her out of this, you know? And basically, what happened was, after he hit me the last time, I said, you know what? I ain't taking this abuse no more. Because I knew I could fought. I did karate. I did everything. I knew I could have beat his butt. But I didn't do it because of the job I was on. You know, because a lot of officers, you guys don't know, when officers get involved in domestic violence, the victim gets their gun taken away too. And that's our livelihood. You know? So I said, okay, it's either me tell or not tell. So I chose not to tell. I used to come to work with black eyes, and I used to say, oh, I got to fight with a prostitute. Or I did, you know, it so much that I lied so much I got good at it. You understand? And I started believing myself. So, okay. So what I'm saying is, basically, try to speak to the young women. Because if somebody comes in disheveled, and I always had a smile on my face, no matter what. Now I have a smile on my face, and everybody asks me why I always have a smile, because I always say to keep my enemies guessing. But before, you know, I used to have a smile on my face because I didn't want anybody to see my pain. So basically, the only thing I ask is speak to young ladies, speak to your young men, and try to be involved in their lives. It's no such thing as you can't be your daughter's friend, because how else are they going to tell you anything? Okay? So that's all I got to say. No problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What a wonderful testimony. Thank you so much for sharing. We're now getting ready to go into a mode of prize winning. Anybody excited about that today? It's going to be great. One of the things that I like to do is to let people know that because you have come out, that we want some people to leave happy, and all of you will leave with more information, but some of you will have a bigger smile because you had a chance to win something. And everybody likes prizes, okay? Do I have everybody's slip? Has everybody turned in their slip? Has everybody turned in their slip? Going once? Yes. Going twice? Going 3 times. You know, sorry? They're gonna pick it. One of the things I want to make mention of is that statistics show that 1 in 4 women struggle with domestic violence compared to 1 in every 7 men. And as she counted off the 3, now you can kind of take a look at what it's like for our adults. And so many people are affected. This is tragic. 1 in every 4 people, that's more than scary, that's frightening. And what do you do? And I was so glad that Dr. Brown gave us some ways by which we can begin to do some prevention. And I would encourage you here at the Shani Baraka Center, and I'm segueing into that, at the Shani Baraka Center, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be more of a preventative, but we're also helping with victims as well as other crises that oftentimes lead up to domestic violence because they're triggers. They're involved in homes that create situations that are just upsetting to people, and they already have tendencies, mental illnesses, et cetera, and these things come out. And so we want to make sure that from an educational perspective, we've got a lot of partners. You've seen some present today. So it's not all about just our providing information. We have people that are professionals that can come in and help to make a difference in the city of Newark, and that's exactly what we're doing. Also, I want to make sure, everybody say 7538. 7538. Write that down, because one of the things that we get blamed for oftentimes, there's a lot of information, even in the courts, that they're handing out about Shani Baraka, and the phone number isn't right. In fact, we had the phone number scraped off of the door. When I came, I says, no wonder people can't get a hold of us, because the number even on the door is incorrect. So if they come after hours and they write down the number, so it's 973-733-7538. We want you to get the right number, and we're working on having communications through the city to have those numbers changed on the website. Even if you Google it, you won't get the right number to the Shani Baraka Center. And people say, I call and I call and I never get an answer. It's because it's one of those bogus numbers that has been printed and has been issued, but those things need to be changed. Another thing that we've done here is we've made sure that all of our phones that have been installed, now we're able to get messages. You would not believe it, but until I became the director here, the employees couldn't retrieve the messages. And it was just some fluke in the system, and we're able to get that now. So I want you to know that whereas you think that we're maybe not approachable, we are. We're improving our services by light years. Good things are happening. Did you just note what we're doing for you today? And as a result of that, let's give the Shani Baraka team a hand clap, because they help with all of this. We are just here because even Sergeant Poyetta can tell you that when they bring someone over, we're on it. We make sure that we remedy situations as quickly as we possibly can. Shani is very well connected now, and we have a lot of people that we can call on to make things happen, whereas before it was a little shy of that, but now we've enhanced that by light years. So saying all of that to say that the Shani is new, improved, and we want you to have confidence in us and utilize us as much as possible. Any questions? We'll answer some questions that you've had on any of the presentations. Our presenters, most of them are still here. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am, with the... Yes.
2 questions, one for special victims and the other for doctors. For special victims, where do you find the stat reports?
We gather them, we have something called a ledger.
Okay.
And every time we get a report in, we input it into our ledger, and that's how we either give it to our detectives or file it away. And that's how I get my stat reports.
Is it available to the public?
No, it is not.
Okay. Because I was only asking because I was looking for stats for Newark specifically, and it's like really old.
Because you didn't call me.
And also with the Brick City Peace Collaborative, they have stats that are readily available. And if you look up the city of Newark and look up BCPC, they have stats that have been printed on their site. So if you need access to, it's a lot of different types of stats, but they have them broken up into areas. So it's crime, it's like domestic violence, it's like, so they have just an array of information, and it tells you, it even pinpoints it to an area of the city, like by ward. You can tell by ward where crimes are being committed. As an example, one thing that's very interesting is that you wouldn't think this, but on the high rise of thefts, robberies, you wouldn't believe this, but the North Ward is high in that area. And the reason is because they have a lot of people that are immigrants that are there, that are working, and they're getting the checks, and they're going to the check cashing places, and then they're going to bars or places of entertainment at night, and people are waiting for them because they know that they have cash money because they don't have bank accounts. And they did a study to kind of try to figure out why was that the case. So it's very, very interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in stats, you can contact Sergeant Poyeta, or you can just go on the internet and kind of find that information under BCPC.
What is that website again?
It's under the City of Newark, and it's the Brick City Peace Collectives. Brick City Peace Collectives. And the acronym is BCPC. BCPC. And you can get those stats. And your other question, ma'am?
And also, there was another question for the doctor, but just really quick, I just want to drop the bug in everyone's ear that my sister's Lighthouse is having our rally walk and fest against domestic violence tomorrow. Yeah, so even if you can't register online, you can still just show up. We're here unified, we're empowered, we're moving. Yes? I see a lot of heads, but I don't hear a lot of voices. Yes. My secretary, because I did do one of these panoramas. So I got your faces. So we'll be at Military Park at 10 walking, and then 12 we'll have all of our activities. Monifa is our Grand Marshal, and Lenny Green is our host. Yes.
Amen.
Okay. And then, sorry, so the doctor. How do you teach children or children the difference between playing versus going too far? So say, for example, a couple, middle school, play fighting, grabbing on each other's shirt, pulling back and forth and so on. So how do you help them create the divide versus the play?
That's a great question. I think that first start with teaching the educators, right? I mean, because I talked before about cultural. Sometimes we have cultural ways when we look at children. No, they just roughhousing or they're just playing, right? So back in the day, like growing up in the 70s, especially, it's like once you hit them back, we had these cultural norms where it kind of like was a barrier to where we are right now. I think it's important as soon as you get your young people in social spaces, period. And that means even pre-K3 or even before. I saw something so beautiful that they had a boundary song and they were teaching a child. Like you're in my space, the bop bop bop, back up, da 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 da. And I was like, I sent that song to myself immediately because that's how early bullying goes on. It's even going on in nursery schools. And obviously they're babies, so they might be pushing it and they don't know what they're doing. I'm saying that to say there's no age limit on when we start talking about boundaries, especially sexual abuse. You have to tell your babies. Yes. And I even saw a cute little thing on TikTok where the father tapped the mother on the behind, I'm just keeping it real, right? And then the daughter, who maybe, she baby 5, she said, you're going to jail. And then the little boy, he's like, you're going to jail for that. And they were just adamant. But even though it was funny and we was laughing and it was paid, I applaud the parents for teaching them boundaries, right? And I think that that's how early, if they are in social spaces, we should be teaching those things. And I say that because it's not just school, churches, mosques, whatever it is, I think we should have space to teach these conversations. So there's no limit. I'm gonna learn that boundary song, and I think that that's something I'll share with pre-K for them to get started as well. Great question.
Any more questions?
I have a question.
Yes, and then after, Dr. Bird, you're next, yes. You? No, you first.
Question, I don't know if this is appropriate, but I'm a mother that lost 3 of her children in the city of Newark with closed cases. Where do I go to see if I can get help for my children that was murdered?
The best thing is for you to contact the Essex County, because they're the ones who are the ones that investigate homicides.
But they never investigated, it's cold. They stuff is under desk, so these are cold cases. Who do I have to contact down there?
It's homicide.
Homicide?
Essex County prosecutors, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're the ones, as soon as someone is deceased, we give them all to Essex County.
Okay. Because this is the type of feedback that I get back with no disrespect, you know, the nonchalantness, but those are my children and I just want to know what happens after the fact.
Definitely, I understand.
I appreciate
Is Pamela McCauley still here? I can't hear
Missing
you.
persons is in. For missing persons right now, we actually have detectives that just came into our unit. We have them on cold cases right now.
Okay.
So for missing persons, we're doing stuff on our part, but with homicides, you have to call Essex County.
Essex County,
Yes.
and it's the prosecutor's
Yes, the
office.
prosecutor's
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
No.
Pamela McCauley, are you able to add anything to that?
Yeah, we have
I want you to know that we have Pamela McCauley in the house who's with the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. So if you would speak, that would be great, Pamela. Pamela? Wait a minute, we're just going to let Ms. McCauley speak, and then we have Dr. Bird, and then you'll be after that.
Specifically the cold cases?
Just to give her a phone number that she might be able to call, a contact person.
No, I can get her a contact person. Don't worry about that. I'll get you a contact person.
We have a cold case sheet. Okay, so if you have my number, so we'll take care of that.
Thank you. We got a soft handoff there. That's great. Yes, that's what this is all about, a soft handoff. Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you. We have Dr. Bird now. You wanted to ask a question.
Yes, my question was for our vice president, principal here. With our children, how do we start talking to them about partner violence? Because a lot of them don't understand what partner violence is and the origins of it. So they may be laughing and thinking that it's funny or it's a joke when it's leading up to something even worse. So how do we get them to understand that it's just not funny and it's dangerous? So,
Well, I will say that laughter and things like that is a coping mechanism. I mean, I think being trauma informed is important because we're dealing with somebody's maturation level. A kid is a kid is a kid is a kid. I found that even when you're taking, giving important information, you know how the kid is on the phone, they're laughing, you look like they're not responding. Those are the ones listening.
yeah.
And I have to say that because we have to give our kids grace. A lot of times they're embarrassed about understanding it all too well. You understand? Because they are also in houses where their parents are interacting or experiencing DV. So they are aware. I think that sometimes when you give a presentation and it might be one setting, those kids that kind of stood out, that were probably talking, looking at their phone, maybe laughing too much, go to them. Go to them, and they're trying to deflect. And it is a coping mechanism, especially the younger you get. Those are, because honestly, it's kind of sad, but trauma is being experienced younger and younger and younger, and we're not mature enough to handle trauma at young ages.
That's why people get schizophrenia and things like that because they're coping. So I will go to that person afterwards, say, I know it's on your phone. Would you like to talk? Have you ever written this? Just, and that private conversation with no one around might yield a lot more than you think, because when those numbers said that they either experienced it or witnessed it, right, that's a lot. So go to them, they might be acting out or deflecting, but they might be experiencing
Create a safe space.
And there was a lady in the back who, yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kilby, and I have Asia and Heart for Domestic Awareness Foundation. My daughter and my granddaughter were killed in Ohio, and then her boyfriend drove to Alabama and killed himself. I also have a program within the city of Newark. And I would like to know, how do I get to be a part of this when we're speaking about domestic violence, because it's relevant, and I want to be a part. I had to find out by just coming here to the Shani Baraka Center. I want to be involved just as well, I'm also sponsored by the city as well. So I would like to get involved, and I appreciate my sister's Lighthouse for opening up the door and asking me, to walk with them tomorrow. I would love to participate. So if there's any other organizations, I would love to be a part, because I'm truly affected by this, along with my family, and everybody knows what that's like. It's been 2 years now, and I lost my daughter and my granddaughter to this.
That's very, very interesting, and I want to let you know something, and this is not just for her asking the question, this is for everyone. One of the things that the mayor of the city of Newark wants to happen at the Shani Baraka Center is for us to bring partners to the table to be able to do things right here. So say, for example, if you had something on your heart that you wanted to do for the month of October, or for the month of November, something that would be impactful, some information that you wanted to bring. You could house here a workshop, a seminar, a symposium. We would make space available to you at no charge. And it's hard to find space now for, housing various types of activities. And we especially embrace those opportunities. The only thing, there is a process. And by doing it the right way, it would be to send an email to the Shani Baraka Center, and we'll give that information to you. Cheyenne will make sure you have that before leaving. And then you would just make a request of what you would like to do, the date, the time, and then of course what your needs are. Do you need chairs? We can get you the chairs. Do you need a podium? We can get you the podium through the city. Can you get a microphone? Yes. We won't be able to provide things like food or maybe materials, but we can provide the chairs, we can provide access to having a mic, a podium, and then free space. And then we will also advertise it with you in mind, putting it out. We will have to get an approval on your flyer, and we'll be your partner. And as a result of the proper approval of the flyer, then we'll be able to disseminate it. And then we have a database. I don't know how many of you receive emails from us? All right, so we have a database that has every person's information, and if you're here for the first time, your name will be added to the database. And then information will be shared with all of our partners. So that's how you can engage. And we want you to know, we honor what you do, we respect you as an individual, and yes, 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 we'd love to receive that email. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Ms. Limehouse.
Yes.
I know October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but we do this every day. And I believe that if we can break the cycle by stop doing it just in October, by doing it every month, because we help people every day. And it's just awareness is breaking the silence, is breaking the system of what's done the same way over and over. But we have to break the silence, so we have to do that every month. So I believe that we become just aggressive as the problem, because the problem is outrageous. And then we don't have places to help people or send anybody. Every place is full. So I believe that if we do more awareness, prevention, intervention, education, then we can combat some of the problem. But we need to do it more than just October. We need to do it every month so that we stop the violence.
We want you to know that everyone will be receiving a calendar from the Shani Baraka Center. If you have events that are taking place, we will make sure that that's disseminated to all of the partners. But here at Shani, we do have a calendar. And so it's not just done in the month of October. We have events that are continuously throughout the year, and we have them, they're made available by way of email communication, our calendars for the month. So we will shortly be having November calendar out, ready and available, so that you can receive that. And of course, for the October calendar, you may have already received that, but as a result of your being here, I want to make sure that we resend the calendar so that it can be fresh. We want to use this center as a means by which it's your center. It's not just for the employees of Shani Baraka. We extend ourselves very openly to incorporate you in a meaningful way to make sure that we eradicate these issues, not only with domestic violence, but there are many issues that we help to address here. And I'm going to be talking with Dr. Brown because one of the things that we're working on is with the LGBTQ community in schools and working with the school setting to make sure that if they need to have programming and they want to have a safe haven, how they can even utilize Shani Baraka, and then we can go out into the schools. We've done some presentations in the school assemblies in Newark, and we're setting up a calendar for 2025. But you know, that is something that we're interested in, not only serving women, we serve children, we also serve men, and then there's just a myriad of problems that take place in a community that we are trying to address. So we made some partnerships with individuals. Some of you have seen them present today, and some of you have seen them present other times. And we do have, thank you so much. And we do have the opportunity to make sure, even around Mother's Day, that we do a lot of special programs. Dr. Bird is here, and she's working on something in November for Thanksgiving. She's working with the Apostles' House. And so that's one example. That's the purpose of the Shani Baraka Resource Center, is to make sure that we coordinate services. When there's someone who comes and there is a crisis, we have a network of resource providers that are being funded by the city of Newark, and some who have other types of grants. We pull all of that together to make sure that people have a means by which to have a place to live, to stay. We try to work through the process of making sure if they come here, they're going to have a safe plan that is developed for them. We have a coordinator that is for domestic violence, just solely for domestic violence. And so when I hear people say people don't know what to do or people don't know where to go, I want to encourage you to have them come here. This is a great start. We have so many partners. Again, it's not all done by us, but we do the work of pulling together all of the partners so it could be seamless in terms of your being able to have the services that you need. So let's erase that myth. There's no way of coordinating. There's no way of making sure women know exactly what to do. Let's not say that anymore. The element of having the Shani Baraka Center here is for that purpose. And so we want to make sure that you know the phone number, you give us a call. Thank you. We have someone coming into the room that we have been waiting for. My goodness. Do we need to introduce him? Would you just stand and let's give honor to the mayor of the city of Newark, Mayor Raj J. Baraka. Mayor, the Shani Baraka Center is so happy to have you with us today. And the reason is because you've given us an opportunity to make some of the things that you have as dreams come true. The Shani Baraka Center has made a great turnaround, and we're on the move and we're moving forward. And so by seeing all who are here today, understanding that they have a heart and a passion for making things happen, We want you to know here at Shani Baraka, we're here to make your vision, your dreams, and everything come to fruition to change the situation of domestic violence here in the city of Newark and to eradicate those ills that come through our various wards, not just the South Ward, all wards, and making things better. So we're going to turn it over to you. Thank you for being here. Let's give him another hand clap.
Director, another round of applause, please. She's doing an awesome job. I was about to call her pastor, but it's time and place. But I don't know what else I can say that's probably already been said today, or what you're going to hear after me from experts and other folks that are involved in this. I'm certainly not an expert in this arena, but I lost my sister to domestic violence. My father lost his sister in similar kind of circumstances. But, the Shani Baraka Center for us is very, 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 special to me, to my parents, my mother, who's still around. I drove past this building every day. It was an abandoned building. People were inside of it, water in and around it. It was just not being used. We made use for the building. We redeveloped it and turned it into the Shani Baraka Women Resource Center to address domestic violence here in the city of Newark. And there are a lot of domestic violence programs in this town that do incredible work, by the way, in every ward. Some of them don't have the resources they need. They need more support. They need, more people, more opportunity. We need more safe houses. We need more employment opportunities. We need all kinds of things. And I think just the city being at the forefront of it, the mayor's office being at the forefront of it, letting everybody know how important it is for us, gets people to be more focused and concentrated on these efforts, and hopefully give us the kind of resources and revenue and collaboration that we need. Because it's not enough just to have a program in every ward. We have to have unity and collaboration. That's more important than everything else. I mean, it's not a competition about whose program is doing better than this, what program is, who's achieving this and who's achieving that. Ultimately, our goal is to service people who need help. And all of us have to figure out how to do this in a collective way, because the things we do together are the things we do well. And so if we don't figure out how to do it together, it'll always be haphazard. People who are victims of domestic violence will always fall through the cracks. They will never speak out and speak up. If everything from law enforcement to basic social workers to domestic violence outreach teams, everybody has to be on the same page, and everybody has to talk to one another. Because ultimately, look, my sister was dealing with this for a very long time and did not feel secure enough to come to her family. At least not to her brothers and everybody else about it. To my other sister who wound up being victimized herself, didn't feel comfortable coming to us to talk to us about it, probably for various reasons. One, she don't want us to get in any trouble, right? And women, people have to think about that. I don't want my brothers to get in any trouble. I don't want them to do something and now they're in trouble. Or I'm still trying to work this out in my head and my heart, to figure out what's going on here. So there's various reasons. Or I'm ashamed to tell people this is happening to me. Right? That I'm going through this, that this is a problem for me. And ultimately, you tell one person my other sister, you tell my other sister. And so she tries to, go and defend her and do what she thinks is right, go and protect her and shelter her. And then she tells us, but too late. She tells us, my younger sister, that, this is going on. And so we all get into the mode and the gear of we gonna find him and do all this other stuff. But ultimately, my sister Shani is wound up being killed by him and her partner, as well, in my other sister's home, right? And so there was a time where you would regret, as men would do in our egos. I would be upset, and my brother's upset that we feel like we couldn't do nothing about it. Like we should have stopped it. Like we should have engaged and intervened and prevented this from happening, or took him out of the picture before it happened. But the reality is, we don't need, she really didn't need us to do that. What needed to happen is that we needed to find opportunity for someone to empower her to change the situation. We're always looking to step in and put a heavy hand in it, and sometimes make matters worse. As opposed to providing opportunity, counseling, employment, a home, somebody get away from here. I might not be able to leave this place because he helping pay the rent. I gotta get out from under him. How do I figure out how to do that? There might be some psychological and emotional attachments here that I need to talk through with a counselor that can help me wrestle with this stuff so I can make a decision not to show up there tomorrow. Or I get the strength to say don't come back. Because the dangerous time becomes when you split up, when you break up, we say this is it, I had enough, it's finished. That's when danger sets in. So what do I do now that I made it, that you made me strong enough to say, okay, you gotta go, get out of my house. Now who's gonna be there with me? When he in my backyard, you know, when he's stalking me at my job, when he calls me 500 times. Well, I'm gonna get help from then, right? I call the police, they get a restraining order that don't restrain nobody. Right? I got a restraining order, ain't nobody been restrained since the order went out. I'm gonna go get a double restraining order. No, really, like who's gonna help me? Like who's gonna? So I might feel peace just to fix it. So we watch all these cases go to the municipal court of people having restraining orders, incident happening. You go to court, and people, men and women, go to court, and then they say, I don't want to do it anymore. Because when you think about it, the consequences of doing it becomes worse than not. And so you're sitting there debating, and so most of these cases are thrown out. They're thrown out because nobody wants to follow through with it, because there's no support at the end of it. There's no support at the end of it. That's what this building is for. That's what you people are for. The support before, in the middle, and at the end of it. So, yeah, you could talk about me all you want. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. But who's going to help me pick up my babies from school? Right? When I come home after work at 9 p.m., is somebody going to be on my porch? This real stuff. Right? Is somebody going to be on my porch? Listen, my rent is $1,200. He was paying $500 of that. I need that money. Who's figuring that out for me? Or if I'm younger, I need some counseling, and I don't want to tell my mother because my mother's going to get on me, and I don't want to feel like, I want to feel like I'm in control of my own life. Right? So this is why I think this building is important, and the work that folks do here are important. These are very real issues that go overlooked. People talk about homicides and other things that happen in the city. They talk about aggravated assaults. There's a lot of those, in those numbers are domestic violence numbers. Domestic violence numbers are in those numbers. I know because I see them. Domestic violence is in there, in all kinds of ways. And domestic violence is just not like, man-woman violence, right? It's also mother and daughter, father and son, and all of these things that take place around here because our relationships are strained by the environment we live in. It's just the reality. We upset, we angry, we frustrated, and we're dealing with some depression and some other issues in our mind, and we take it out on each other because you take out your pain on the people that are in the closest proximity to you. So we need access to counseling, to people. We need that. So hopefully that this center, I've been over here trying to get it better and better, but by God's grace, I haven't had to come over here in a long time because, obviously the hand, it's been good, and I appreciate that because this means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. It brought closure to my mother. It brings closure to our family. It makes us feel good that we could be a blessing to somebody else through our own tragedy. Because this is a pain that we still feel. It's still ongoing. It'll never, ever, ever go away. But we feel like being a blessing to other people helps us get through the pain that we got to get through. Every birthday, every thought, every reporter that got to ask me about it over and over again because they think it's a good story, you know what I mean, who always have to raise it or me talking about it. You know, just me helping people do this helps me deal with it because at least even in my sister's death, she's more important than the guy who killed her. Right? She's still helping people, still. And she was a beautiful, beautiful soul, right? Basketball coach, teacher, incredible person, lively, a fighter, you know what I mean? That was her. So at the end of the day, we lost something very valuable at the prime of her life. We lost a very valuable person in our family who defended the boys in our family, by the way, when we were kids, right? So we loved her immensely. And so it really took something away from us. It took something away from us, something physically and emotionally. So this building, when I drive past it, it gives me a sense of joy. So I was really depressed when it wasn't functioning the way it should be. So I'm glad that, you know, we are moving in the right direction. I appreciate all the work that people are doing. I want to thank you. I know there's a lot of organizations in here that do work with domestic violence. I want to thank you for the work that you do on the behalf of the 311, 12, 13,000 people in the city of Newark, but also on behalf of the Baraka family and my sister Shani Baraka and her partner Rayshawn Holmes, who lost their life, fighting domestic violence, trying to protect another woman who is being victimized by domestic violence, shot in cold blood in that process, and robbed on the ground after it was done. So that's her story. That's what happened to her. But this is also her story. So thank you. God bless you.
So today I had the pleasure of being part of the partners, people who come alongside the Shani Baraka Women Resource Center. Great opportunity to learn about community resources here in the South Ward, as well as to better connect to resources in an coordinated effort to make sure that there are services, agencies, educators, businesses, all sectors of the community that can come together and lend support and advocacy on behalf of intimate partner violence victims. I've worked with this organization, Shani Baraka, the Resource Center, since it opened, and looking forward to continuing our contact and support for the programming that comes from this organization.
You know, domestic violence is something that is terrible in our community. 1 out of 3 women suffer domestic violence, 1 out of 7 men. And it is helping resources here in the city, but many times people don't know the connections or they don't know where to go. Well, we want to encourage you to reach out to the Shani Baraka Center, because when you reach out to the Shani Baraka Center, it's many, many resources that are here, and if they don't have it here, they have the collaboration and the connection to connect you with the right person. And many reasons people go through domestic violence, and so we're not here, it's non-judgmental, it's here to be a help to the community and to reach out to those that are hurting and those that need the help.
Long way